The series opens with Mr. Tay, the deputy director of an all-girls school named Satri-Lurdlawatea, giving a tour of his institution to the guardians. We learn that the students here are grouped together in classes depending on a score that is built upon their exams, class participation, and extracurricular activities. Through an app, the students and parents can keep track of their progress and know how many points they have. The A class consists of the top 16 students, rewarded with private dorms, private libraries, and even private cafeterias. They're offered top-notch amenities thanks to their exceptional profile skills. Mr. Tay ends the tour with a lot of zeal, only to discover that the school's assembly board has been vandalized by a group of vigilantes known as the Black Sheep. This covert group wants justice, equality, and peace within the school grounds, as they believe the school's rating system is corrupt and discriminates against students based on their scores. A-class students get clear privilege, while others are treated poorly with regards to the facilities provided to them. Meanwhile, the series' main lead, Pong, and her friends are worried sick about their tests. They are among the top 16 in A class, so they don't want to risk blowing their exams. It's not only about dropping from A class to the lower classes. For them, it's also about pride and dignity. Pong has been stressing that no matter how hard she tries, she always ends up in 6th position. Therefore, this time she has a strategy to ace the math test. However, this strategy only leads to her worst nightmare. The next scene shows our heroine and her friends sitting for the tests. During this time, Pong pulls out her cheat sheet and copies the answers. Unfortunately, the sheet accidentally falls to the floor. Although she manages to hide it under the table, she is eventually caught. After Pong is caught cheating on the final exam, the deputy director, Mr. Tay, deducts 8,000 points from her score, causing her to drop from 6th to 142nd place. This also causes her to move from A class to F class. Tam, one of her close friends, who is also Mr. Tay's niece, reassures Pong that she will find a way to get back into A class. On the first day in F class, the other students can tell Pong looks down on them, which creates some tension. She especially clashes with the class president, Mion. Although some girls are welcoming of Pong, Mion knows that this new student is no different from any of the other girls in A class who act superior and bully others. Later, the class teacher, Miss May, announces that they have to work on a group project. Pong repeatedly asks to work on the project alone, but she's refused. When she finally asks her classmates to join her, everyone says no. Frustrated about being snubbed, Pong sits alone by the school fountain when a young man approaches her. Our heroine is a little surprised to see a man lingering around an all-girls school, but the man introduces himself as T, the trainee PE teacher. He tries to cheer her up, but to no avail. Pong misses her friends, and most importantly, she knows how disappointed her parents will be in her. Later that night, Miss May shows Pong around the F-class dorms, which she thinks looks like a haunted house. Much to her dismay, she has to share the dorm with the other girls. During Pong's first night in F-class dorm, she tries to talk to the other students, but finds that none of them are at home. She sees one of her classmates named Meow walking from the dorms and follows her. After a while, Pong ends up at a secret base, which the F-class students use to discuss plans. Here, they refer to themselves as Black Sheep. Expectedly, Mion is the leader of the group. It's revealed that their plan for tonight is to cut down the access gate to the A-class students' cafeteria. Pong follows them, planning to tell the deputy director about it, but the other students spot her and mention that if they go down, she will go down with them for being out past curfew. Hearing this, Pong follows them silently until they cut down the gate. Everyone immediately runs away, but poor Pong is left stranded. She is almost caught by the guard, but just then, T appears out of nowhere and hides her. In the next scene, a surprised Pong asks why he, a teacher, is helping the F-class students to vandalize the school. In response, T reveals a bombshell. He is actually Mion's brother. The following day, thanks to the work of the Black Sheep, the students gain access to the gate, and the school board is pissed about the vandalism. So Mr. Tay announces an emergency meeting, where it's decided that a group of students from A class, including his niece Tam, will be officers responsible for patrolling the school grounds and investigating the vandalism. Tam is appointed as the leader of the new student officers, which doesn't come as a surprise to any of the students, seeing her uncle is the deputy director. Later that day, Tam says that she found a way for Pong to rejoin the A class. They both talk to Mr. Tay, who tells them that he suspects students from F class to be members of the Black Sheep. He offers to return Pong to A class if she can prove that F class students have vandalized the property and violated school rules. Since Pong wants nothing more than to get back into her old class, she accepts the deal to expose Mion and her friends. Next, our heroine tries to befriend F-class students by bribing them with sweets, but Mion and another classmate named Cock don't fall for it. Later that day, the student courtroom, where student affairs are settled, holds a hearing, in which Tam is judge. A friend of hers, Nam Kong, sits in as in-house lawyer for the defendant named Foam, as no one would dare sit aside with a student who is not from A class. It turns out Foam is from B class. Meanwhile, Tam's other friend, also from A class, Meringue, serves as plaintiff and witness. Meringue claims that she spotted Foam reading the answers for the upcoming math test. In response, the latter claims that she only found the paper on the ground when Meringue spotted her, but as there are no other witnesses, she looks guilty. Just as Tam is about to make her decision, Mion, the representative for F-Class, speaks up. She boldly mentions that the rules state they have 3 days before a decision is made. Hearing this, Tam reluctantly announces that Foam has 3 days to gather evidence and prove that she's innocent. Believing that justice must be served in the case won by truth, the members of the Black Sheep attempt to look for evidence to prove that Foam is indeed innocent. Pong offers to help, but Mion doesn't trust her heroine and shuts her down. The next scene shows Mion and her friends, clad in Black Sheep costumes, breaking into the school's security room where the CCTV footage is stored. Unfortunately, they learn that the camera wasn't working on that particular day. Just then, they notice another student's face on the camera from a different angle, but she is too far away to recognize. Therefore, there isn't enough strong evidence to bring forward in the courtroom. Nonetheless, the group does find out that the test paper found by Foam was not the actual math test paper, meaning that someone planted it there. In the meantime, Tam sends Pong video evidence that shows Foam picking up the paper from the ground and tells her to use it in the proceeding. Tam and her A-team want to close the case as soon as possible and find Foam guilty. However, Pong also wants justice for Foam, and therefore she goes around searching the whole building where the incident took place. After a while, she comes across a staff member who happened to be working at the time Foam found the papers. The staff lady confirms that Foam often came alone to sit on this side of the building to study. However, that unfortunate day, she was seen with another student. The lady truly believes Foam is not at fault. On the third day of trial, Foam is still without any evidence. Consequently, Tam decides to give a ruling, but she is interrupted by 3 members of the Black Sheep. The girls masked in their signature costumes provide evidence that the paper is fake, citing that it came from an unknown publisher. This would mean that the real test papers and the papers that Foam found on the ground are entirely different. Unfortunately, since the origin of the paper couldn't be found, Tam says that's not good enough, as Foam is still possibly hiding the paper in her bag. Just then, Pong enters with another student named Five from E class, who was also present during the whole ordeal. In fact, she is the student Mion and her friends had spotted on the CCTV. This student testifies to the claims, explaining that Foam did pick up the test paper from the ground, but soon after, she heard Foam with some other student arguing. So she escaped the scene, fearing she could also get into trouble. Additionally, Pong has also summoned the school's staff lady, who confirms Fi's story. Because of all this evidence, Foam is finally declared innocent. After the hearing, she thanks Pong for helping her out. During their conversation, it's revealed that they used to be best friends in middle school. However, when Pong got into A class during high school, she cut ties with Foam, who is in a lower class than her. Pong apologizes to Foam for being such an arrogant prick back then, and the 2 girls rekindle their relationship. Later at the dorms, everyone welcomes Pong with open arms, and they admire her as the savior of the day. She has become instantly popular among the Black Sheep. Later that night, Tam texts Pong asking why she didn't use the video to frame Foam. A flashback shows that Pong talked to Meringue asking her why she was there with Foam in the first place. Another conversation between Meringue and Tam reveals that the A-class students had stolen the paper and were going to use it for the test, but Meringue was the one who dropped it while transporting it to the dorm. Therefore, Tam and her friend's evil scheme was to frame Foam, a B-class student, hoping to save their image as A-class students. Just then, Pong's mother calls and asks if she wants to come home for the weekend, but our heroine says that she'd rather stay at the dorms to focus on studying. However, Mion later tells her that the F-class students are going to her house over the weekend, and Pong should tag along. After some convincing, she goes with them. Next, the girls arrive at Mion's house, where it's revealed that she and T's parents passed away in a car accident a long time ago. Pong asks where T might be, and Kook teases her, saying that our heroine might have a crush on him. However, Pong brushes it off by talking about their upcoming project. In the next scene, Mion tries to take Pong to a rundown warehouse, but our heroine doesn't want to, so she's offered a deal. And if she still doesn't like it, Mion will do whatever she wants. Upon reaching the place, Mion introduces Pong to her other friends. The warehouse is used for acting, dancing classes, skateboarding, and other leisure activities. Mion explains that her family owns the building and that she and T are trying to make it into a place where teenagers can come together and be themselves. Pong says she understands Mion's point of view, but still thinks it's too optimistic and disagrees. Instead, she confidently says that she wants to join the Black Sheep. But before Mion can say anything, another friend, Mi-chan, interrupts them to offer treats. Later that night, all the girls and T and his friends take Pong to a haunted house where people have to burn incense sticks to ward off evil spirits. Our heroine claims she doesn't believe in ghosts, so Mion challenges her to perform a superstitious tradition. Pong has to comb her hair in front of the mirror, and it's believed that whoever does this act will be able to encounter a spirit. Pong does as told, but things get out of control when one of their friends, Meow, suddenly disappears. The teenagers are scared to death and start to fret for the worst. One of them mentions that they must find Meow before the incense stick burns out, because Meow might be gone forever. Kook, who has had enough of the situation, scares off and flees the building. Now that everyone's disorganized and scattered, Pong decides to look for Meow. Suddenly, she hears someone following her, and when she turns around, she sees a white figure coming straight at her. Thankfully, it was all just a prank to scare Pong and test her loyalty to the group. After the celebration, Tam asks Pong how it's going. Our heroine explains that she's now a member of the Black Sheep, to which Tam replies that she will give her next task soon. The following day, there's a brief commotion in the cafeteria. While an E-Class student waits in line for their drink, a B-Class student cuts in line and takes her drink away. When the E-Class student calls her out, the B-Class student pours bubble tea all over her. Just then, Meringue and Tam intervene and tell the E-Class student to apologize. This is entirely unjust, so Cook and Meow, who witnessed it all, try to tell them that the B-Class student is the guilty one, but Meringue doesn't care. Kook nearly gets into a physical fight with an A-Class student, but Meow stops her, warning her that her scores will be dropped and she might even get expelled from school. Next, the E-Class student is walking around the campus grumbling when all of a sudden she receives a text from Black Sheep BS about how they can help her. It turns out the text came from Tam and Meringue, who are trying to bait students by imitating the Black Sheep. Meanwhile, Tam calls Pong to ask where her Black Sheep uniform is, and our heroine says that she kept it at home. Before she gets to ask any questions, Tam hangs up. Next, Mion convinces Chan, Cook, and Meow to join Pong for the group project, and then go out for lunch. A video is then posted online where the aforementioned B-Class student is tied to a chair, and a person in a Black Sheep uniform pours bubble tea over her. When the girls get to lunch, they witness the E-Class student picking another fight with the B-Class student, telling her that if she slips up again, she will inform the Black Sheep again. Witnessing the situation, Mion and the girls realize that someone is trying to defame the Black Sheep by carrying out dirty work. Therefore, Mion intervenes to calm the situation down. She nearly gets into a fight, however, other girls stop her, dragging her to the dorm. In the meantime, Pong tries to call Tam, but T is also in the hallway, so she just goes back to the dorm. There she tries to finish the group report, but one half of the girls are playing a mobile game, while the other half is watching a drama. Meanwhile, in order to find out who the impersonator might be, Pong investigates on her own and discovers that Tam is the one in the video, torturing the girls. It turns out that Tam had taken Pong's costume and impersonated the Black Sheep. Eventually, she finds Tam's A-Class pin in the school's bathroom. It's evident that poor Pong is torn between her new friends and old friends. Although she really wants to go back to A-Class, she has now formed a strong bond of friendship with Mion and the girls, who can vouch for justice and equality. The following day, she confronts Tam, telling her that she's going too far, but the latter reminds her that our heroine needs to help her catch the Black Sheep if she wants to come back to A-Class. Tam then asks for her pin back, but Pong says that she will only return it when Tam stops going after the Black Sheep. Meanwhile, T overhears their conversation between them and learns that Pong is actually working for Tam and her uncle, the school's deputy director. The following day, T confronts Pong about the conversation and asks if she's going to give the pin to Mion or Tam. Our heroine says that she disagrees with Tam and truly wants to help the Black Sheep. T promises not to tell Mion, but Pong needs to prove to him that she is worthy of this chance. Meanwhile, the Black Sheep are on the move again. At night, they sneak into the school computer room to hack into the computer system. However, the A-Class student officers, including Tam and her friends, are on the lookout for them. Thankfully, Mion's two friends manage to lure the officers away, while the others complete their agenda for the night. The following day, however, the student officers try to frame an innocent E-Class student to lure out the real Black Sheep. They blame the student for being a part of the Black Sheep and take her to court. In the courtroom, Tam, being the judge, announces the verdict, rendering the student guilty and giving her punishment. Meanwhile, the E-Class students protest against her, saying that someone is trying to frame their friend. At F-Class, Mion and their friends realize the student officers are doing all this so that the real Black Sheep can show up and take the blame. Therefore, they have a strategy to calm the situation down. While Tam is punishing the E-Class students, a live video pops up in everybody's feed. It shows Mion and the others clad in their signature costumes. Mion then informs the viewers that everybody is in fact a part of the Black Sheep. Whoever fights for justice, equality, and impartiality are members of the Black Sheep. To everybody's surprise, she and her friends have hacked into the school's app to disable hate speech and everybody's individual score for 3 days. In the next scene, an enraged Tam orders the school officers to track the Black Sheep's live location and arrest them. However, it turns out the video is actually a recorded one, making it impossible to track. When Tam gets to learn of this, she gets so frustrated that she lashes out at her own friends, yelling at them to bring Mion at any cost. Once she is alone, Mion and the girls show up and reveal all the evidence against her. It turns out that the other night, the Black Sheep not only managed to hack into the school's app system, but they also gathered the CCTV footage that shows Tam wearing the Black Sheep costume. When the evidence is thrown at her, Tam realizes that she could probably get into trouble, so she reluctantly agrees to stop impersonating the Black Sheep from now on. Later, the F-Class girls go to a cafe plus a karaoke bar owned by T's cute friend Beam. Pong returns home, but after a little bit of nudging, she too decides to join the rest of her friends at the cafe. T notices that she looks unhappy even after their small victory. It turns out Pong lost her bracelet while hiding away from the school officers the other night. Luckily for her, T had found the bracelet on the floor and returns it to her. Later at the karaoke bar, everyone splits into Team Kook or Team Meow. It turns out that both Kook and Meow have a crush on Beam, so they play games in teams to figure out who gets to confess first. It ends in a tie, so they confess simultaneously, but Beam rejects them both, explaining that he is currently committed to his business. He does say that both Kook and Meow are cute, and they deserve someone who can make a commitment. In the meantime, T's friends Moss and Fui tease each other about making a move on Mi-chan and Mion. While everybody is having fun, Pong excuses herself to go outside and sit alone. T, who seemingly likes her, follows her and asks what happened. Pong abruptly inquires what his dream is, and T says that once Pong realizes what her dream is, they will talk about it together. Our heroine says that it might take a very long time to realize it, but T makes sure he is ready to wait for her until then. Meanwhile, Fui and Mion, who are secretly spying on them, realize that T has feelings for Pong. After returning home, Pong goes outside to clear the trash bag when her estranged sister, Puyon, suddenly shows up. The two then hug each other, but it's evident that Pong is a little distressed. In the next scene, the sisters sit by a river and Puyon reveals what she's been doing ever since she left home. Pong is still mad at her for leaving, so she tells Puyon that she had to be her substitute for their parents ever since she's been gone. Puyon apologizes to her, but says she has dreams to follow. She is soon graduating college and becoming a fashion designer. As once promised to Pong, Puyon gifts her with a scarf made by herself. However, our heroine doesn't want to hear any of her sister's stories, so she throws the scarf and walks away in anger. Flashbacks from 2 years ago show that Puyon used to be the third in the school's leaderboard, while Pong was only in the B class then. Their parents used to tell Pong to study more so that she could be more like her sister and get into the A class next year. They also wanted Puyon to study medicine as soon as she graduated high school. However, Puyon seemed to have something else in mind. It's revealed that she wanted to study fashion, which is in an entirely different career from what her parents wanted. One day, she makes a beautiful bracelet with her and Pong's initials on it and gives it to her little sister. She then confesses that she wants to study fashion, but Pong reminds her that their parents would be very much against the idea. Puyon then tells her not to worry, ensuring that she will talk to Mom and Dad. However, the following day, things don't go as planned and the parents get furious and lash out at Puyon. They regard fashion design as a mere hobby, which is not enough to pay the bills. Following the fight, Puyon leaves the house for good and lives with her aunt. When Pong finds out about it, she is initially sad that her sister is gone, but then she starts to tear up photographs of them being together and promises her parents that she will study medicine instead of Puyon and make it up to them. She also ensures them that she will make it to the top 3 at school. Back in the present, Pong, unhappy about her sister's return, makes her way to Mion's house and spends time with the F-Class students. They go to watch a basketball game where Fui and Moss are playing. During the game, the boys nearly lose the match. However, Fui's three-pointer secures the winning point. The girls cheer for them as they celebrate their victory. After the game, Mion, unaware Fui likes her, tries to match a girl with him. Understandably, he's upset for her not realizing that he has feelings for her. The girl asks whether Fui is single and if he can give his number to a friend. In response, Fui refuses and says he's currently unavailable. When Mion asks him why he did so, Fui tells her that he already has someone he likes and she shouldn't make such decisions for him. He then walks away angrily, leaving Mion standing alone. After a while, when she goes for a walk to think about things, she runs into Puyon, who is looking for her sister. Meanwhile, Pong is on a walk with T, who reveals that Mion used to be an A-class student but voluntarily moved down to F-class. As a rebel, she didn't fit in with A-class students who lacked real friendship and only cared about their profile scores. This is the reason why she chose to be in F-class. In the next scene with the help of Mion, Hwayeon finally gets to meet her sister at Beam's cafe. Our heroine is seemingly uncomfortable around her sister. She continues to blame her for prioritizing herself and breaking the family apart. After yelling at Hwayeon, Pong leaves once more. On her way out, Mion orders Pong to talk to her sister properly and settle their differences. But this only backfires as Pong reminds her that it's none of her business to meddle in other people's family matters. T then scolds Mion for interfering and constantly making decisions for others. He urges her to make up with Fue as well. Having realized her mistake, Mion visits Fue at his house and apologizes to him. The latter accepts her apology, but says Mion has to do everything he says. Reluctantly, she agrees to do it. Fue then takes a funny photo of her and makes her save it as her profile photo. After making up with him, Mion also apologizes to Pong for interfering in her personal life. Nonetheless, she encourages our heroine to talk to her sister and seal past wounds for good. After a lot of deliberation, Pong finally decides to talk to her sister. Hwayeon apologizes to her for leaving her alone instead of being a supportive caretaker. Pong is still mad at Hwayeon, but they set aside their differences and eventually make up. Following this, Pong thinks about everything that's happened in the past few weeks and what she wants to do. She is still struggling to choose a side between Tam and Mion. She is deeply conflicted about whether she should support the corrupt system through which she can make her parents proud or continue to fight for justice and equality alongside the Black Sheep. The next scene shows Pong handing over the Black Sheep spray paint stencil to Tam, who congratulates her on returning to A-class. Ultimately, Pong has decided to return to her old class. The following day, our heroine, still unsure whether she made the right decision, testifies in student court that the F-class members are all part of Black Sheep. She even took the stencil from one of the members' rooms as proof. Mion and her friends are more than surprised to find that Pong was a spy this whole time. They are heartbroken and equally mad at our heroine. During the court hearing, as the president of the student officers, Tam announces that the Black Sheep will have to take extra classes as punishment. They will also have to dedicate their afternoons to community service and have an earlier curfew than the rest of the students. Later, Pong urges Tam to stop the court order as it's too harsh on the Black Sheep. However, our cunning girl reminds her that their real agenda is to wipe out all the members of the Black Sheep for good. During their social studies class, Pong delivers a speech on righteousness and equality, but her fellow class students seem to ignore her. Everyone seems to have turned against her, except for the wise and polite Nam-Kong, who offers to study with her to help her catch up. In the meantime, Mion has a flashback of Rain, a classmate of hers who had sadly taken her life under the pressure of the deputy director. It's revealed that ever since Rain died, Mion has been full of vengeance and has sworn to take down Mr. Tae's corrupt system. For this, she formed an allegiance with the rest of the F-class members and created the group named the Black Sheep. Back in the present, Mion asks her classmates to join her in creating a memorial for Rain as their last action as Black Sheep. Elsewhere, Pong sees another A-class student steal a cheat sheet out of a book, so she confronts the student. However, before she can investigate the situation, Tam intervenes. Pong later suspects that Tam has created the cheat sheet for everyone in Class A, so she asks the F-class teacher, Miss May, for help. Through Miss May and T, Pong finds out that Rain had wanted to study microbiology but couldn't access the material because the lab and library sections were restricted to A and B class students only. To help Rain with her studies, Miss May took out books for her and gave her information on when the lab wasn't being used so she could sneak into it and read more materials. Sadly, when Deputy Director Mr. Tae found out, Rain was called to his office. She didn't mention Miss Tae's involvement and instead took all the blame upon herself. Accused of stealing, Mr. Tae forces her to take an advanced biology test to prove that she is indeed capable of passing the test like an A and B class student, and if she scored 80% or more, her offense would be excused. However, given little time to prepare, she only scored 68, which is relatively good for an impromptu test. But Rain was told by Mr. Tae that she would never be able to study what she wanted because her grades were too low. Shortly after that, Rain took her own life. Mion created Black Sheep to fight the system that caused all this, and T, who was in a relationship with Rain at the time, vowed to help her because he blames Mr. Tae for what happened. Later, while the Black Sheep members prepare for a memorial for Rain, T and Pong look for evidence that the principal is providing cheat sheets for A-class. Just then, they accidentally run into Tam and Meringue. Tam asks why Pong is roaming around since it's nearly curfew hours. When our heroine hesitates to come up with an answer, T steps in. He lies that they went out to run an errand, and as a teacher, he offered to walk her back to the dorms. Thankfully, the other two buy the story and walk away. Pong then realizes that Tam must have held onto the math exam papers in her book. When the rest of the students arrive the following day, the school is filled with posters asking, "Do you remember Rain?" accompanied by a black and white picture of her face and a QR code which tells them the story of Rain. Sadly, the Black Sheep members are once again called to court due to the vandalism. A trial is held in which Tam suggests a 14-day suspension for F-Class students. But then Mion openly blames the school for Rain's death. Mr. Tay threatens to expel her when suddenly another live stream starts. It turns out Pong has hijacked the system and is providing a copy of Mr. Tay's print records, which show that the math exam was printed ahead of schedule from his personal computer, rather than the administrator one. She explains that a suspect from A-class brought the exam papers home, got the answers, and created a cheat sheet for the others. In order to prevent a digital footprint, the suspect chose not to share the answers through cell phones, but chose to hide the cheat sheet in the Zone A library. The suspect then gave the book number to her friends to find the cheat sheets. At this point, the only people allowed in the A-Zone library are A-class students. This is how they get high exam marks, while other classes believe that no matter how hard they try, they will never be as bright as them. The truth is, this scandal only benefits certain people who use rules to take advantage of others. This proves that the A-class students, so-called pride of the school, were always cheating in exams. Mr. Tay is actually being paid by parents of Class A students to keep their children at the top of the class. Although the truth is finally exposed, Mr. Tay sends Pong back to F-Class, which she happily obliges. The next day, Pong walks past A-Class and congratulates Tam on getting away with everything thanks to Mr. Tay taking all the blame. Despite her foul play, Tam is indifferent about what happened the other day and is still determined to go after the Black Sheep. Before parting, the polite Kong quotes an essay that Pong had written during the social study class. She also reveals that she finally found a dream for herself thanks to Pong. Later, T asks Pong why she snitched on F-Class in the first place, and her heroine explains that she had felt lost in F-Class because she still didn't have a dream. Although she had friends who understood and valued her, no matter what, she still wondered who she truly was and what she wanted in life. Everyone in F-Class seemed to know themselves well. They knew what they liked and what they wanted to do in the future. So the closer she got to them, the smaller and more invisible she felt. Pong chose to go back to A-Class because if she didn't go back, she would never know where she truly belonged. That is, she would never have realized that she belonged with F-Class. When Pong finally returns to F-Class, everyone hugs her and cries. It's summer break and Pong has started working in Beam's cafe. One day, she gets a surprise visit from T, who has brought her favorite food. They chat for a while until Beam interrupts to teach Pong how to make coffee. When T sees the two of them together, he is evidently jealous. Just when he's ready to give his little gift to Pong, Beam gives our heroine the same thing. He then leaves the cafe without bidding farewell to Pong. It's revealed that T has decided to transfer schools, as he has fulfilled his wish to help Mion and the Black Sheep get rid of Mr. Tay. Now, he wants to pursue his dream. In the meantime, Meow, who dreams of becoming an actress one day, passes the first round of a casting audition, and everyone gathers around at Beam's place to celebrate. During the party, Mion spikes the girls' drinks, and as a result, everyone is shit-faced. While being tipsy, Pong admits to Mion that she likes T. She also asks if he has a girlfriend. In response, Mion reveals that T used to date Rain before she died. Hearing this, Pong is shocked, but Mion assures her that T likes her as well. On the other hand, Beam and Fui decide to help bring the girls home. Meanwhile, Mi-Chan tells Moss that she wants to be more than just friends. Moss, who also has a crush on her, simply says, "I love you." Later that night, Fui takes Mion home and she passes out on the bench outside her home. Sensing this as a perfect opportunity, he confesses to having feelings for her. In reality, Mion is awake and she hears the entire confession. The next morning, Meow nearly misses her second round of auditions, but Cook helps her get there on time. Her idol, the musician Tang Nuang, shows up at her audition. Therefore, Meow gets so excited that she performs poorly. Consequently, she doesn't get the role. Later that night, everyone goes to a small charity concert, and surprisingly, Tang Nuang performs there. After the concert, Mion and Fui talk things through about the other night and decide to take it slow. Meanwhile, Pong asks T if he's really moving away, to which he replies that it's always been his dream. She wonders if he saw her as a replacement for Rain, but he assures her that he's always seen her as just Pong. Later, a board meeting is held to discuss Mr. Tae's future. As he waits for them to vote, he receives a phone call from a student's father and thanks him for helping him with the school board. He then talks to Tam, who says that she's discovered the Black Sheep's secret base. In response, Mr. Tae also reveals that he's found out that T and Mion are siblings. At the same time, Mion and Pong want to go clean up the base, so they head to the location. Unfortunately, the A-class officers arrive at the secret base beforehand and set the Black Sheep uniforms on fire, right in front of Mion and Pong. Due to his connections with school board members, Mr. Tae manages to reinstate himself as deputy director. Unquestionably, the first thing he does is change the rules. From now on, anyone whose score reaches 0 will be expelled. Moreover, after finding out about his link with Mion, T is banned from contact with students, including teaching. He is left to do paperwork until he has to leave school at the end of the term. As punishment for F-Class's actions as Black Sheep, their points are reduced down to 100, causing Mion and her friends to panic. Next, the cunning Tam announces that she'll be closing the Black Sheep's secret base. If anyone gets into the base again, they will be expelled. Hearing this, the F-Class students rush to their secret base, but they are stopped by Tam and the other school officers. Koo gets angry at what they have done and tries to fight them off, but Mion and the others hold her back out of fear that she will lose points. Once they're back in the classroom, one of the members of the Black Sheep says that it's all Mion's fault. While nobody agrees with her, only Cook and Pong voice their disagreement. Meanwhile, another member named Lucky is seen meeting up with Tam, telling her that the Black Sheep has fallen apart. Tam tells her that if Lucky is able to bring enough evidence to expel Mion, she and the rest of the others will be saved. Hearing this, Lucky reluctantly agrees to work as a spy for Tam. Later, Pong goes to talk to Mion alone, who says that the best thing to do right now is to bear with the new rules, as she doesn't want anyone to suffer the consequences of her actions any longer. However, Pong says she has something else in mind, as she doesn't want to sit back and be oppressed by the corrupt system. That night, Pong finally decides to protest as she gets her old Black Sheep uniform out of the closet and spray paints the symbol over the rules hung in the hallway. The following morning, the A-class students confront F-class about it, but leave after finding no solid evidence against them. Later, Mion asks Pong whether she has done it, and our heroine confidently says yes. She mentions that she only did it to let the whole school know that they can't be tamed while the corrupt people take advantage of their silence. In the next scene, Lucky is again seen meeting with Tom, revealing that it was Pong who vandalized the school the other night. In exchange for this information, she demands protection for the rest of the Black Sheep members. Tam accepts it on the condition that Lucky continues providing them with insights. The following day, the A-class students spray paint even more logos all over the school, and Mion gets angry with Pong, thinking it was her again. As the school court judge, Tam calls forward 10 suspects from classes B through E to taunt Black Sheep. After this decision, Nam Kong has finally had enough and quits the student officer's team. Meanwhile, Pong decides to rescue the 10 students, and everyone joins her. But Mion, who has given up on fighting the system, tries to beg them to stay. On their way out, they lock up Mion in the bedroom to give her an alibi and keep her out of trouble after all she's done for the Black Sheep. As Pong and the others walk towards the location, they notice Lucky has been on her phone for a while now. Kook quickly snatches the phone away and discovers that Lucky has been texting Tam the whole time. They realize that she has given away all their secrets, including the location of their secret base, which caused the fight between the Black Sheep members. Lucky tearfully reveals that she doesn't want to fight the system anymore. She just wants to get her scores back and graduate with good grades so that she can go to university. She also warns everyone not to go save the 10 suspects, as it is a trap set up by Tam. Pong and the others understand Lucky and tell her to go back to the dorm if she doesn't want to tag along. After all, it is her choice to decide for herself. At the building where the 10 suspects are kept, the student officers confront the Black Sheep. However, they manage to unlock the room where the suspects are held. While Meringue live records the Black Sheep in their signature uniforms, Tam announces that they have caught the F-class students, who will certainly be expelled. Lucky and Mion arrive together, both in their Black Sheep uniforms. In front of Meringue's camera, Mion opens the door and lets out the suspects, but they refuse to move, fearing they'll be expelled. Tam then calls her uncle, who is about to make an announcement, when suddenly his door is opened. As a live stream starts, director Soni Takanu announces her grandiose return to the school and sets every single student's score to 0 to start from scratch. Meringue confirms that all their scores have been dropped to 0, but Tam tells her not to worry, ensuring her that her uncle will fix the situation, as always. Now that the school's director is finally back, Mr. Tay, being deputy director, has less power to make rules of the school. In a flashback, it's shown that before Mr. Tay took charge of the school, Director Soni was against the implementation of the scoring system, fearing it would negatively affect the students with low scores. However, the school's board remained indifferent to her opinion and went on to implement the scoring system. Eventually, the director decided to take time off until her retirement. As she is in regular contact with Ms. May, Soni found out that a student had taken her life due to the school's system, so she decided to come back and mend the system for good. Soni vows to make a just school with diverse students who have different talents and skills of their own. Meanwhile, A class and B class want to convince the director to revert back to the old system. The director then asks 2 representatives from each class to come to her office to discuss the matter, and Mion suggests using the annual school contest to decide the scores. Tam argues that she would rather have the old scores back. The director then lets all the students vote on the school's app so that they can choose on either to agree on letting the winner of the contest decide or disagree on the same term. If the students favor the contest winner, then the class that scores the highest will get to choose whether the school will use the old system or set up a new one. So, the senior students, that is Pong, Tam, and their friends, are asked to vote. After a while, when the intense voting comes to an end, Ms. May announces that the number of students who support the contest is more than those who are against it by 25 votes. This means that the winner of this year's contest will determine the new school system. The teachers later have a meeting where the director Soni tells Mr. Tay that members of the 10th and 11th classes and some teachers will be the contest judges. After the meeting, Mr. Tay tells Tam that he has given the 11th class some incentives, so they will be on the side of A class. The various classes decide on how and what to perform, and Mion makes Pong the decision maker. In the next scene, Director Soni announces the rules of the contest. There will be 3 categories: academics, sports, and performance. For the first 2 categories, there will be 3 contests. For academics, they will have math, science, and social studies tests. For sports, they will have basketball, badminton, and a game called Kabadi. Moreover, the students can choose to compete in any 6 contests. But for the performance category, the students are free to choose what they will be performing. At last, the winner will be decided by the popular vote. That means the audience will also play a part in the contest. Also, for the performance category, each of the classes will be given the opportunity to propose their ideas about what contest they would like to have on their application. One of these contests will be randomly picked by the school board. In conclusion, to make the event more intense, the contest name will be changed to Contest War Festival. Later, Mion takes Pong to visit T, who has now transferred to another school. He gives her words of encouragement and also mentions that Pong's problem is that she's afraid to start. She just has to be brave and face what life has given her until she finds out what she really likes and what she's good at. In the end, she'll know where she's supposed to be. After hearing all this, Pong decides that they will be performing a play. It will be about F-Class and Black Sheep. The next scene shows the director announcing the official start of the Contest War Festival. The first competition is a sports match, laser tag. Tam ends up winning it, but of course, by cheating. Her team uses drones to track their opponents, due to which they can quickly locate and subdue them. Even though technology communication is forbidden, A-class students also use walkie-talkies to contact each other. The second competition is translating English proverbs into Thai, which is also won by an A-class representative. F-class starts to get suspicious as the representative from A-class seems as if she had known the answers before the questions were announced. The third competition is a sports game called Kabadi, in which F-class wins thanks to Mi-chan. The fourth competition is a hacking marathon, and Mi-in's hacker friend is convinced that she will win this competition. Unfortunately, A-class wins again. F-class is dismayed by the results because they know that their friend is one of the top hackers in Thailand. They feel A-class knew the answers beforehand, and that's how they were able to win the 2 academic tests so far. During the basketball game, the A-class team keeps taking dives to draw fouls against the F-class team. To make matters worse, the referees who are bought by Tam and her uncle keep giving Mion and her friends foul cards. The strongest player on Mion's team is sent to the sidelines and replaced by Pong, who can't play basketball at all. Even though Pong scores the final throw, thanks to last-minute lessons from T, it's ruled a foul, and A-class is declared the winner of the semifinals. The finals are supposed to be A-class versus C-class, but due to food poisoning, C-class withdraws, which makes A-class the overall winner. Meanwhile, the business startup contest is also won by A-Class, even though it's evident that Cook, representing the F-Class, has the best overall plan. Convinced that Tam has bought some of the judges and referees, Pong persuades Mrs. May to swap the referees from A-Class versus F-Class badminton game to those for the D-Class versus F-Class esports competition. Unfortunately, during the badminton competition, Cook and Mion suffer from stomach cramps after having water tampered with by A-Class. This leaves Pong and Mion with no choice but to switch places. Tam tries to convince the referee not to allow it, but because they're not the ones who have been bribed by Mr. Tay, they agree to let F-Class swap players. On the other hand, the representative from F-Class wins the esports game, thanks to Pong's idea of swapping the referees. Moreover, Pong and Mion also win against Tam and Merengue in badminton. Next up, director Soni makes an announcement that from now on, only she herself will supervise and rule the contest, as she has been informed of cheating. She also talks privately to Mrs. May and asks for all the teachers to send her test examples, and she will decide which ones to use for the academic competition. As a result of the director choosing the test papers, the top scores across all subjects are spread across all classes, with B class scoring the highest in math and D class scoring the highest in social studies. A class only secures a second position in both the subjects and even ties with F class in social studies. Eventually, Tam lashes out at her classmates. She particularly scolds Merengue as she only secured the second position in the math test. Hearing all this, Merengue finally speaks up, mentioning that Tam is being too hard on the rest of the team members. Also, she reminds her that cheating is not always the solution. This causes A-Class to fall apart, as they decide to not follow Tam's orders anymore. The following day, as F-Class is practicing for their play, T calls Pong. She asks if he will come to watch her play. He says yes, then asks her out on a date to a zoo. The heroine is delighted to hear this, and she promptly agrees. After the phone call, Nam Kong anxiously approaches F-Class to ask for help. She tells Pong that Tam is going overboard to ensure that A-Class wins at any cost whatsoever. Tam pulls down Mion during a relay competition and then demands a rematch. Seeing this, the angry A-Class members finally kick her off the team. After Tam runs off, Pong, who is worried about her old friend, goes after her and finds her standing at the edge of a rooftop. Tam tearfully says that she's had enough of everybody, and no matter how hard she tries, she can never be top student. She also mentions that Pong, a determined student, would never understand her. Moving closer to the edge, Tam finally reveals that she cannot take orders from her uncle and jumps off the building. Thankfully, Pong grabs her just in time so she doesn't fall. While insisting on letting her go, Tam reveals that she was the one who told the teachers that Pong was cheating at the beginning of the episode. She did so because she was jealous of her, because she was someone who was always determined to do better. But for Tam, she always had to submit to cheating in order to secure the first position. In response, Pong mentions that she always knew it was her. Our heroine then advises Tam to reflect upon her actions and not work under the orders of others. Tam needs to find a dream of her own, but first, she needs to fight against the unjust system that restricts the diversity of students. After this, together with Nam Kong, she manages to pull Tam up. Mion also arrives at the scene to help save her too. After rescuing her friend, Nam Kong tightly hugs Tam and tearfully tells her to never try anything like that ever again. Later, Mr. Tay summons Tam and confronts her about the class scores. He also scolds her for being careless about the referees. However, he ensures her that he will get back the points his way. That night, Mr. Tay sends Tam the answers to cheat on the science exam, but she is unsure about opening it. Meanwhile, Pong and Mion wonder if Tam will cheat again on the exam tomorrow. In the next scene, the science exam begins and all the representatives from different classes give their best. When the results are announced, it's revealed that Tam has scored 99 out of 100 without opening the email. Mr. Tay is still unhappy about it, so he tries to give her new orders for the performance competition, but Tam finally stands up to him and says she will no longer take orders from him. Later, when the students arrive at the performance venue, everything is trashed and Mr. Tay suggests postponing or canceling the contest. Tam, however, says it's not right and they want to perform. After all, they've practiced so hard. All the students work together to fix the props and stage in 2 hours before the gates of the venue finally open for the audience. Having fixed the venue, the performance competition officially begins. A class performs a country dance. B class plays live music. C class does a scary story reading drama. D class performs a comedy gag. And E class does a fashion show. Finally, F class performs a dramatic play written by the aspiring screenwriter, Mi-chan. T arrives late, but that's because he picked up Pong's sister, Puan, on the way. Staged as a medieval fantasy story, F-Class's play retells the story of the Black Sheep and how and why it was formed. A demon lord, relating to the character of Mr. Tay, hunts the local villagers, played by Mion and the rest of the class. Meanwhile, Pong is the one narrating the story, while Mion, the aspiring actress, plays the main character. Lucky also stars as a spy who reports the villagers' moves to the Demon Lord's followers, due to which the villagers are tortured and sent to the world of misfortune. However, the Black Sheep rescues them, and together, they outcast the Demon Lord and his followers. Eventually, righteousness, virtue, and justice are delivered to the villagers. There is a huge round of applause once the play comes to an end. Then, everyone is asked to cast their votes. Undoubtedly, F-Class wins the performance category, which gives them enough points to win the overall competition by 4 points. This secures them the chance to revamp the school system. As the representative, Mion goes up on the stage and suggests that all the students together will come up with the new system for the school. Furthermore, she wants to hear other improvement suggestions, and the students say they want a new uniform. Following the victory, Pong reunites with Puan, and they embrace each other with a warm hug. Fast forward to a month later, and it's revealed that the ranking system has been taken down permanently. Every student is now able to choose more elective classes, and there is always more room to improve the system. On graduation day, F-Class returns to their old Black Sheep base, where they talk about their plans. They promise each other that no matter where they go or no matter what they do or no matter how much time goes by, they will forever be F-Class and the members of the Black Sheep. Pong announces that she will take a gap year to figure out what she wants to do. They then come together for a tearful hug. The show ends with T finally taking Pong on the promised date.